California courts, the judges throw out the ban on same-sex marriage again. How people in Utah respond to the latest twist in the case.
Frantic phone call. Police released the 911 recordings from the social worker who watched Josh Powell's house go up in flames.
Nixing noise. New ordinances in Spanish Fork will make it easier for police to cut down on unwelcome noises. I'm Anna Hayes.
And I'm Kelsey Eager. It's February 8th, and in Utah, it's 12 o'clock.
From KBYU and the BYU Department of Communications. This is the award-winning 11 News at noon.
Some people in California expect plenty of debate now that a federal appeals court declared Prop 8 unconstitutional. That's a proposition that defined marriage as one man, one woman. 11 News reporter Katrina Malentiva talked to people here to see what they think about the ruling. Katrina, what does this decision mean?
Well, now that California unofficially supports gay marriage, people in Utah have started to voice their concerns. And after talking to some locals, I found out people have pretty mixed feelings. After years of waiting, same-gender couples in California could see wedding bells in their future. In a 2-1 decision, federal judges lifted the state's ban on gay marriage. Even though the majority of Utahns still struggle with the idea, many understand the issue is part of modern society.
I would have to respect that it's part of, our culture now, but I wouldn't agree with it.
I think it's important to remember that people who are struggling with homosexuality are people too, and that we need to love them, but we don't necessarily need to love what they do.
Utah's Pride Center is one place that provides help for gay individuals in the community. They say they're excited about the new laws.
So we're celebrating, with them, but we're still here doing the hard work that we need to do to bring Utah alongside other more progressive states.
The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints supports Prop 8, and after the decision, they released an official statement saying they regret the decision and hope discussion will continue with civility and respect. Other Prop 8 supporters say they're upset about the ruling and plan to draft an appeal. In Provo, Katrina Malentiva, 11 News. The court says that gay marriages cannot resume in the state until the deadline for the appeal passes. And Prop 8 sponsors say they plan to appeal the case to the Supreme Court.
Okay, that sounds like it's going to be a heated case. Thanks, Katrina.
And police have released the 911 recordings just after Josh Powell killed himself and his 2 boys in his Washington home. A frantic, locked-out social worker tried to alert authorities.
Ma'am, were you calling about the fire in the 8200 block of 188th Street, Northeast?
The house.
Ma'am,
yes,
do you know the okay? Do you know the exact address of the house, or are you able? Okay, stay online. Do you know if anyone's in the house?
Yes, there was a man and 2 children. I just dropped off the children, and he wouldn't let me in the door.
Okay.
And people are saying there's not somebody here, but I was just there, and there is somebody here. There's 2 little boys in the house, and they're 5 and 7, and there's an adult man. He has supervised visitation, and he blew up the house and the kids. The kids and the husband and the father were in the house? Yes, he slammed the door in my face. So I kept knocking. I thought it was a mistake. I kept knocking, and then I called 911. You saw him go back into the house when the flame, right before the flame? He didn't ever leave the house. He just opened the door. The kids were 1 step ahead of me. They're 5 and 7. They were 1 step ahead of me, and he slammed the door in my face. And you think he might have done this intentionally? Yes.
These supervised visits initially took place inside the Washington Department of Social Health Services offices in early November. The visits moved to the Powell's home in November. Republican presidential candidate Rick Santorum got a big boost from 3 states. Santorum won the Missouri and Minnesota caucuses last night, and after a tight race against Mitt Romney, Colorado also made Santorum their primary winner. The 3-state sweep marks Santorum's first victory since the Iowa caucuses a month ago, but Santorum still trails Romney in overall delegates.
Changes to a noise ordinance in Spanish Fork may make officers' jobs a little easier and neighborhoods a little quieter. 11 News reporter Rosemary Card finds out what all the noise is about.
BYU students who live in these homes across the street from this construction site know what it's like to live where it takes earplugs to drown out the drilling.
Sometimes it gets pretty intense, it's like earthquake a little bit. Like we'll be setting up the table and the table will start shaking, and it gets pretty loud. But
15 miles south in Spanish Fork, when officers receive a noise complaint, they use this decibel device to measure sound levels. The city council last night amended their noise ordinance because the police chief says only about half of his officers know how to use the meter.
That can be pretty cumbersome and pretty inconvenient, trying to track down the machine and remember how to run it.
Rosenbaum says by the time a properly trained officer arrives at the scene of the complaint and gets the meter set up, the noise is gone.
Now, depending on your location, there are going to be different sound limits. Often problems arise when you have a construction zone next to a residential area, like the one behind me.
Now, rather than using a machine, officers use their ears and watches. If the officer hears the noise for more than 2 minutes from 200 feet away, about half a block, the amended ordinance allows officers to take action. The ordinance also covers other noisemakers like cars and loud music. In Spanish Fork, Rosemary Card, 11 News.
The police department says they will still use the decibel device whenever an officer has a hard time deciding if a noise is too loud for too long. Still to come on 11 News at noon. Volunteer police, if you're thrilled by the thought of catching the bad guys, Provo Police has a program for you.
Friendly fighters. The Utah Senate hopes selling F-16s to Taiwan will build good relationships. Why the decision could cause some bad feelings with China. We'll be right back. Have you ever wanted to be a police officer for a day to catch a thief red-handed? Sounds like fun. Well, now you can do just that. As 11 News reporter Tommy Herman explains, the Provo Police Department wants you to be their eyes and ears on the street.
Provo's Mobile Watch is an aggressive crime prevention program that uses, as the name suggests, volunteer mobile patrols.
Which is really a formal way for citizens who want to get involved in the police department activities to be trained.
When the Provo Police Department started the program nearly 15 years ago, it was a citywide effort to protect our parks, streets, and neighborhoods. But interest has declined over the years, and now only a few neighborhoods have the program. But eager volunteers and the police department are working to revive it.
We don't care where it starts, and we don't care where it grows. We just want it to grow.
One of the most successful neighborhoods in the Mobile Watch program is right here in the River Grove area. Now, you won't see volunteers issuing any tickets or making any arrests, but they will be armed with a flashlight and a cell phone to report any suspicious activity.
The police department provide monthly training and say they can cover anything that the volunteers want to learn about.
Initially, they'll need to be just briefed on basic safety and their role as a Mobile Watch member. And then from there on, the training is just, whatever they desire.
Chief Gregory says the program's success depends on the volunteers, but he expects to see the program catch on and spread citywide very soon. In Provo, Tommy Herman, 11 News.
The police department holds regular training meetings for their volunteers and new recruits. To sign up or get details about the next meeting, click on Tommy's story on 11news.byu.edu.
While Utah's Hill Air Force Base is in the process of trading their F-16s for F-35s, the Utah Senate wants Washington to sell the F-16s to Taiwan. 11 News reporter Adam McNevin tells us why they want the president to send U.S. planes overseas.
If this resolution passes, Utah senators say the planes would help an ally increase their national defense.
The F-16 is a legendary fighter jet that leads the U.S. Air Force and may soon be the crown of Taiwan's air defense. The Air Force is replacing the fleet with F-35s, and the Utah Senate has passed a resolution that asks Washington to sell the surplus F-16s to Taiwan for a hefty price.
I suspect it would involve several $1 billion. They're asking for consideration to purchase enough aircraft.
Lawmakers say they proposed the resolution because China has refurbished an aircraft carrier and increased their missile reserves. The Senate says Taiwan needs a stronger air defense force because of the tense history between the countries. Although some lawmakers fear that selling these aircraft to Taiwan will cause contention with China, most agreed that it will not hinder international relations.
But they're all good people, and it's a lot better to get along and sit down and talk than it is to shoot at each other. But on the other hand, you have to be able to defend yourself if need be.
Utah senators hope that the Obama administration will approve the resolution so that Taiwan can defend itself if they were to go to war.
The resolution has passed in the Senate and will move on to the House of Representatives. Lawmakers I spoke with say they are confident it will pass there. Back to you.
Obama decides super PACs are a good idea after all. Airport screening might be going private, and pythons are taking over the Everglades. Here's your look at news from across the nation. The Obama campaign used to condemn super PACs and the money that came from them. Now the campaign is hoping Obama supporters will send their cash to the special interest groups that back the president. The president's campaign says supporting super PACs is the only way they can compete with Republican super PACs that bring in millions of dollars for GOP candidate campaigns. Congress has sent President Obama a bill that would make it easier for airports to hire private screeners. The Transportation Security Administration chief stopped privatizing because he says it hurts flexibility and adds extra costs. Democrats say the bill micromanages the chief, but Republicans say the bill saves taxpayers money. And in Florida, thousands of Burmese pythons are invading the Everglades, wiping out native species. Officials say these non-venomous snakes are foreigners to the Everglades, set free after they become too big to be pets. Scientists say the snakes are disrupting the ecosystem, and it's nearly impossible to catch them all. They can only hope to contain them. And that is some creepy footage. That's your look at news from across the nation. Kelsey, back to you.
They're not that bad when they're that little. When 11 News at Noon returns. Rich Rankings will tell you where BYU falls in college business school rankings and why their place could mean extra cash for graduates. Tree hopping, these Australian natives are bouncy and they've upgraded their playground to a high-rise. More about these cuddly kangaroos when we get back. The Wall Street Journal says BYU's accounting program has been #1 for years. That gives BYU a strong reputation, but there's more than just pride at stake. 11 News reporter Karen Sullivan is live on BYU's campus. Karen, it's more than just bragging rights, right?
Yes. When recruiters decide which schools to go to for new hirees, they look at the rankings. But the Marriott School says rankings are important in more than just the job search. Jordan White graduates from the Marriott School of Business in April, but since November, he's had a job lined up, and he's not alone. The business school says nearly all graduates have a job within 3 months of getting their diplomas, and that's thanks in part to their highly ranked program. Jordan's information systems program is ranked in the top 10 in the nation.
I've been impressed at how many employers come to BYU, come to the Marriott School to recruit students.
About 50% get their jobs from recruiters who come to campus because of the rankings. When business school rankings are high, more students get good jobs when they leave, and the number of applications to the program increases as well. Students say they know how important rankings are.
We all like to belong to winning teams, and we like to be associated with winning programs.
Brady says the ranking systems matter especially for international students who look for the highest ranked program with the lowest tuition cost. He also says as students go on to become alumni, they often give back more money when their school ranks well. This in turn helps boost rankings. But the business school says their main focus is on the student, not the ranking.
We're trying to find good quality students and focus on that, and then the rankings seem to come.
When magazines like the Princeton Review and Business Week rank schools, they look at criteria such as innovation, communication skills, and global experience, things BYU already emphasizes, and that helps keep the rankings high. Live on BYU campus, Karen Sullivan, 11 News.
Okay, rise and shop. Thanks, Karen.
Sean, we have had a rough week for our Utah Jazz. What happened with the game last night?
Well, we knew it was going to be rough going into last night. Sorry about that, because of the fact that they're playing back-to-back and against a red-hot Pacers team. But next on sports, the comeback in Indy. The Jazz rallied from a huge third-quarter hole, but was it enough to walk away with the road win? And running rewarded. The BYU track team has a unique way to honor their running records. Sports is It was a night of big comebacks for the Jazz and for Jimmer, but both rallies on the road fell just short in the final minutes. Let's start with Utah. It was a sluggish and sloppy start for the Jazz, and the Pacers took advantage, racing out to a 21-point lead early in the third quarter, but the Jazz turned up the intensity and came storming back. Gordon Hayward scored 11 in his return to his home state, this backdoor dunk bringing the game back within single digits. But it was Paul Millsap that led the Jazz in scoring with 18. This baseline jumper gave the Jazz the lead, but the Pacers answered back. Some nice ball movement would set up this three by Paul George to stop the bleeding. And then, with less than 30 seconds left, it was Danny Granger who nailed this jumper to seal the win for the Pacers. And it was the same story in Minnesota for Jimmer and the Kings. The T-Wolves had the luck. This alley-oop is tipped, but Wesley Johnson is there for the offhand oop. And Johnson would get an alley-oop of his own later on, this one coming courtesy of Ricky Rubio. But it was Jimmer time in the fourth. He scored all 13 of his points in the final quarter, including 3 shots from downtown, helping to erase an 11-point T-Wolves lead almost single-handedly. But it wasn't quite enough, as Derek Williams hit this big 3 in the corner to give the T-Wolves the 3-point lead. And the game-winning 3 by Dante Green fell just short, and Minnesota escaped with the win. And the BYU men's cross-country team celebrated 4 of its runners yesterday after they broke BYU records for the 3,000, 1,500, and 800-meter runs. Shaquille Walker, Ryan Waite, Justin Heaton, and Miles Batty, who went up twice, all climbed the ladder in the Smith Fieldhouse and unveiled their names on the record board. The top 10 board has been around for decades, but it was Coach Ed Eyestone that decided to make what's called the ladder ceremony a tradition.
Help them think about kind of the history and the tradition of BYU at track and field and how they want to be a part of that tradition.
Anytime a runner finishes with a fast enough time, Coach Eyestone will remove the old name and replace it with the new one. The new record holder will then sign the back of the old placard and mail it to the former runner. And finally, the conference carousel keeps on spinning, and the Big East just keeps getting bigger. The conference officially invited the Memphis Tigers to join this morning, and the Tigers accepted quickly, with plans to join the conference in 2013. The Big East isn't exactly the Big East anymore. If all goes as planned, the conference will have teams in 17 states, including 1 on the West Coast. And the Super Bowl celebration took to the streets of New York yesterday as the city threw a parade for the world champion Giants. Some fans turned out as early as 6 a.m. to catch a glimpse of the boys in blue, and officials estimated a total attendance of nearly 1 million. It wasn't just the Giants on parade, though. Mayor Michael Bloomberg and Governor Andrew Cuomo joined in on the fun, and there was plenty of confetti for the party, too. Approximately 40 tons of it.
And that is a lot of confetti.
That's a lot of confetti. Yeah. That looks like so much fun, though, being out celebrating with everyone in your city.
Yeah. And I want to know, do they just hand out the confetti to everybody and let them throw it? Because if so, I'm there next time.
It's a lot of confetti. I have no idea. Thanks, John.
Yep.
Still to come on.
Well, you've seen these cute little guys hopping on the ground and in their mom's pouch, but you've never seen a kangaroo like this before. A zoo in Australia has a new attraction that may surprise you. Allie Donaldson takes a look.
When Taronga Zoo announced it had a new home for its tree kangaroos, many thought it was a joke. But this really is a kangaroo that lives in the trees.
Is it? On the tree? It's a tree kangaroo.
Wow, it is a bit weird. Where are they from?
Yeah,
Australia.
No, it's not a joke. We do in fact have 10 different kinds of tree kangaroos.
There are just not that many left. Australia only has 2 species living in small pockets of far north Queensland.
They live in really inaccessible, dense tropical rainforest, and so even just finding 1 or 2 can be a challenge.
There are no problems spotting Param and Salsa. They're loving their new bigger home so much they've begun mating again, but they can get a bit feisty.
When he's a bit confused, no, he grabs your legs and he bites. It's only when he's hungry and he's confused.
Needless to say, we brought food.
On the ground, these guys are a little bit awkward. They can barely hop, but once they're up in the trees, it's a totally different story. They can jump 9 metres from branch to branch and even drop up to 18 metres to the ground without hurting themselves.
The tree kangaroo's new enclosure is free to view.
They're so cute.
Yeah,
I want a tree kangaroo. Jeez.
That's 11 News at noon for Wednesday, February 8th.
You can join us anytime on our website, 11news.byu.edu.
Thanks for watching. Have a great afternoon.